Today we are going to make cheese, specifically queso fresco. This is a Latin American cheese where the milk coagulates into cheese just by changing the pH. To understand how cheese is made, first you have to understand the basic structure of milk. Milk is made up of mostly water, lactose, fat, vitamins, and most importantly, proteins. The most important protein in cheese making is casein. This is a nonpolar and hydrophobic molecule. These molecules are suspended throughout the milk in the form of micelles. These micelles are composed of casein proteins, calcium, and phosphate. The casein proteins can be joined by coordination with calcium. The calcium can create linkages between caseins, phosphoserine, and carboxyl groups. Additionally, colloidal calcium phosphate, which can be described as a calcium ion surrounded by phosphate and water, creates linkages with the casein proteins. In cheese making, the primary objective is to disrupt the normal composition of casein micelles so that they coagulate. In our case, this is done through heat and acidity. Acid helps disrupt the micellar structure by protonating the phosphate of the colloidal calcium phosphate. This makes the structure soluble in water, leaving the casein insoluble in water due to its nonpolarity. It's then free to associate into a loose network with other casein molecules that traps milk fat and minerals, which give cheese its taste. Heat serves multiple purposes. First, heat can denature some of the casein protein to disrupt the structure of the micelle. This leaves other casein molecules which were not denatured to precipitate out of solution. Heat drives the transformation of lactose into lactic acid. This decreases the pH and has the same effect as stated before. Simply put, to make cheese, you need to heat and lower the pH of milk so that its casein protein will precipitate out of solution and coagulate to form cheese. The ingredients we're going to be using is cheesecloth, a thermometer, whole milk, lemons, and distilled vinegar. The next step is to pour all of the milk into a pot and to start heating it to 190 degrees Fahrenheit. Making sure to constantly stir so that the bottom of the milk doesn't get scorched. Next step is to measure out the distilled vinegar. It should be 100 milliliters. And then we're going to cut up the lemons we're going to use. And then we're going to measure out that amount of lemons. We used 1 whole lemon. And then making sure to track the temperature of the milk while we heat it until it gets to about 190 degrees Fahrenheit. At that point, we're going to add the acetic acid from that white vinegar. And what that's going to do is drop the pH level below, and it's going to precipitate out the casein. Making sure to stir so that all of that acid gets dispersed throughout the milk. And as you can see, all of that casein has precipitated out of the solution, leaving the whey, which is the watery part, and then the cheese curd, which is what you see coagulating there. And that's all based off of disrupting the micelle structure of the casein protein. And the next step is going to be to line a colander with the cheesecloth. After that, we are going to transfer the curds onto the cheesecloth. Doing this will help remove the water from the cheese, which concentrates the flavor, and make sure that it has the texture that we want. And then using the cheesecloth, we're going to extrude all of the extra water that we can out of the cheese curds. And then pressing it down on that colander. And you can see right here, we're going to be pressing it into that cheese shape that we want. And then we're going to remove the cheese from the colander and from the cheesecloth once it has dried sufficiently. So it's going to be like 20 minutes wait to dry it out fully. And what we're going to be doing here is salting it. So the salt adds flavor to the cheese that we want, but it also helps extrude some of the water that is still in the cheese curds. This is due to an ionization gradient. And you can see that we're mixing in the salt all throughout the curd. And then we're going to transfer the curd into a glass container that we have so that we can shape it into a regular shape. So making sure to press it down. And then using that cheesecloth, going to press it down even further, make sure that it's pressed up on all of the corners on the bottom of the glass container. And then we're going to seal it up and then put it in the fridge to chill out. This will make sure that it has a firmer texture and that it's fully solidified. It's going to go right here.
Put it in.
It's going to go right.
Put it in.
It's going to go here. And we're done. And then here is the final product. And one of my housemates there cutting off a piece and trying it.
So good.